Greetings from the cosmic horrors. The stars are right once again, and the great old ones allow us to talk about for 30 plus minutes H.P. Lovecraft, who is a horror writer, a genre unto himself. I'm your cosmic host, Mark Griffin, executive of the Lovecraft estate on Yawgif, joined in by two of Material World, David Guffey, a professor at Mispatonic University, and Richard Wilson, who is ready to feast on hemlock. Today's guest is Michael of the one-man band, The Arkham Horrors. He's a musician, sound designer, and among other things. And how are you doing today, sir?
Good. How are you folks?
Good. I'm good.
Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah. Thanks for appearing with us.
Yes. You provided the three samples of your stuff for the podcast, and I thought we'd start with the first one, the Arkham sampler. When you did the sampler, what were you hoping that people would get from it?
That was just meant to be like when I first decided to have a social media presence and kind of make it more official and less of a passion project. I needed something just to kind of a landing kind of thing. So that video and the music underneath it is when you go to the Arkham Horrors Facebook page, that video is the first thing that pops up. Same thing with the Arkham Horrors YouTube page. There's just I just wanted something that kind of quickly in just a few minutes kind of gave a little bit of flavor of the kind of the various styles and things like that that you can expect with my music.
And I guess you also did the video as well.
Yep. Yeah. Using a lot of free to use stock footage.
Yeah. So were the people any actors you knew, or are they just like people you found?
No, it was just stock footage that I found online.
Okay, because I thought maybe you were the guy in the mask or anything.
No, no, I'm too busy making music to do that kind of thing.
Okay. And just for clarification, there is an Arkham horror game, a cooperative card game, which has you're not affiliated with them, are you?
I am not just a fan.
But you have done music based on the games, haven't you?
I have. So the goal of this project is to do so the game has been around, I think it's been around something like 7 years. And they release roughly one campaign a year, which is like a multiple game uh, set of like mini games that you kind of play in succession to get to like an end result. Um, each campaign has anywhere from 6 to I think 12 scenarios. And my goal, and they have also over the years they've released like standalone scenario games as well. So they're things that you can either play on their own or you can insert them into a campaign to make the campaigns longer. So I decided when I first started playing the game with my wife, we just wanted some background music, and so I just started fiddling around and making stuff just for us. And I was like, there's a big community out there. Maybe other people would like to to check this out as well. So I put it up online for people. It seemed to get a good reaction. One thing led to another, and so now my goal is to make one soundtrack album for every scenario in the game, which has been a daunting task, to say the least.
So how do you go about doing that? How do you decide, what sounds good when you're playing the game?
That's a good question. So the first we came to the game late. We actually picked it up during the pandemic, when we'd watched everything that had ever been made on television, and we were sick of looking at each other. I was just like, we need to do something because, who knows how much longer the world is going to be in this state of flux. And so I'd never heard of the Arkham Horror franchise. I had no idea that there were games like this out there. And so I was like, this might be something that'll scratch our itch in terms of just something to do instead of sitting in front of the television. And so we came to it late, and we haven't been like playing the game in order. Like, I would just grab a thing and then we would play it, and then I'd pick up another thing and we would play that. And I was making music for whatever we were playing. So I've been all over the map with things. So like the very first campaign of Arkham Horror the card game that we played, once I started doing the music to it, was called Edge of the Earth, which is a sequel to At the Mountains of Madness. So it follows a second expedition that goes to the Antarctic to follow up on the things that happened at the Mountains of Madness. And so, you've got the formula right there for like, what kind of sounds do you want? They need to be icy. They need to be thin. Lots of like high violin strings and, just very kind of cold sounds and things like that. Eventually they go into the caves that you hear about in the book. And so, I want a subterranean thing. They find an alien city. I want something that kind of sounds, like an abandoned, a lost kind of civilization, that kind of thing. So the scenarios, the artwork on them, the descriptions on in the booklets and things like that for the scenarios they do a really good job of telling me, what it is I want to create. They have had, I think, something like 9 campaigns over the years that they've done. They've done one for the Dunwich, a sequel to the Dunwich story. They've done a sequel to the Innsmouth story. So it just kind of depends on where things are set. Their most recent expansion is The Feast of Hemlock Vale, which is, this is a spoiler, small spoiler, very small. It is kind of a sequel to Color Out of Space. It takes place in a small village, kind of like the movie Midsommar. So it's got, that kind of vibe to it. So when I saw that that was, when they made the release announcement, the wheels started moving immediately without having seen anything other than like a thumbnail with like the cover art. I was like, okay, it's going to need um, like handmade kind of instrument sounds. It's going to need like a hurdy-gurdy or like animal skin drums, rough kind of fiddle sounds, things like that, rough cello sounds. I wanted it to sound very organic and very earthy. The one I'm working on right now is takes place in the rainforest of Mexico. So this one has a lot of kind of tribal kind of feels to it. So it just kind of depends on what the campaign as a whole and what the scenario in that campaign that I'm working on specifically are kind of designed to do. It's pretty easy, honestly, for me to kind of figure out where I want to go with it because they did such a good job with their flavor text to get me to kind of capture the spirit of what they're trying to do.
So what was it about it that you wanted to first start playing Arkham Horror as opposed to like, say Monopoly or Candyland?
Because I don't like those games. I'm not really a gamer. I have no prior to picking up Arkham Horror, I have no real experience playing seriously anything more than like Uno or Yahtzee, that kind of thing. It was really just out of necessity, as I wanted to have something that had legs to it. I wanted us to be able to put something on the table that we would come back to every weekend, or maybe over 2 or 3 nights a week. So there was something just to fill space. And I wanted something. My wife is not like a fantasy person. She's not a sci-fi person or anything like that. So there was a lot of stuff out there. Like I knew a Dungeons and Dragons type thing wasn't going to scratch her itch. I knew that, a lot of the tabletop gaming stuff wasn't going to be anything that she would be able to get into. So um, I found a game called Pandemic, which is hugely popular. And the other thing is I'm not competitive. Neither one of us are competitive people. And so I wanted something that was called cooperative gaming, which is where you play together against the game. And I found a game called Pandemic, but in 2020, I did not want to be playing a game called Pandemic.
Absolutely.
So this was the default. This was kind of the next most popular game that I saw that was designed for like people to play on the same team against the game. And so I was like, well, this kind of has like an X-Files vibe to it. I can get into this. I think this is, it takes place on Earth. It takes place, you're a human character, you're not a barbarian or, an alien or an elf or a fairy or a troll or whatever. It was something that my wife could kind of look at and go, okay, I understand this is a person, in the 1920s, it was just it was easier to kind of get onto the table, and I wasn't going to have to twist her arm to get her to play the game with me.
So were you familiar with the writings of H.P. Lovecraft before this
Yep,
game?
a little bit, and I've certainly become a lot more educated as a result of playing the game because I want to. Like for example, the Dunwich expansion is called the Dunwich Legacy. So when I realized that there was a story based on that, I was like, oh, I want to read that before we play the game because I want to have all that extra, I want to fill in the blanks. I want to know if there's a reference. I want to go, oh, that's something that happened in the book. And same thing with At the Mountains of Madness and things like that. Like I was familiar with Cthulhu and I was familiar with a few of the other, more, I was familiar with Innsmouth and, Dagon and all that stuff. But I've gotten a lot more familiar over the last couple of years. It's been an education.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a slippery slope,
I know, isn't it though? It's so true.
Yeah. So when you compose, are you thinking more of Lovecraft or are you thinking more of game plan?
Nowadays, I'm thinking more of Lovecraft. Yeah, yeah. Because the other side of this is that the more I've kind of done it, the more I realize that the application for the music isn't specific to Arkham Horror. So I've one of the main reasons why I started making my own music is I was finding that a lot of the music that's available online for this kind of game is either really, really dark and really kind of heavy, or it's really, really cheesy. And
Combination of
at,
it.
at the heart of it is it's an adventure, really. It's you're trying to achieve a task. You're trying to race against the clock of the game, and um, so I wanted there to be a lot of that kind of feel to it. I wanted it to feel more like you were listening to a Hans Zimmer soundtrack for like a Batman movie or something like that. Um, so the bigger kind of thing while I was starting to develop this stuff was that I was starting to realize that this music isn't specific to Arkham Horror, or isn't specific to H.P. Lovecraft, even though it's being composed specifically for that thing. I'm trying to make the music in places general enough, so that it can be played with other types of games, or whatever. If you're just having a party and you just want some weird music or something. Um, the other side of that is that I try to, in a hour plus album soundtrack, I try to mix up like the styles and the genres so that it doesn't all sound the same for the entirety of it. It doesn't all sound drony. It doesn't all sound dark. It doesn't all sound heavy. So I'll have, one track that's very percussive and has like big drums in it, and then I'll have another track that's orchestral and kind of sounds like something out of I don't know, Alfred Hitchcock movie maybe. And then I'll have another one that sounds like the Blade Runner soundtrack, and then have something that sounds like Dune or whatever, just to try and kind of mix up the sound styles, so that if whatever the advantage to the way that music is listened to now is that they can grab my album, throw it on a playlist, and then delete whatever they don't like, and then add other things to it. So I've had that in my mind while I've been making these albums, that like I put 8 albums out roughly with every campaign that I make. So they have 8 different hour-long plus options of music that they can pick and choose and mix, and grab something from a completely different 8 album collection of songs, and they can build their own playlists of just my music, or they can build their own playlists of a whole bunch of other people's music and include mine in it. And there's a little something for everyone that way.
Yeah. So you said you recorded this so you could play. I mean, you're playing this, or you made this for you could play. So were you actually playing it while you're playing the game, or did you record?
That's a funny question, because I kind of do a little bit. We started playing the game just whatever, and I'd have a Spotify playlist on. And then once I started deciding to make the music, I would make sure that I would have whatever, like an hour to 2 hours worth of music, just like drony stuff that I made, and then have it make sure it was finished in time for us to play the next time that we were going to get the game to the table. That's not sustainable, because it does take about 10 days, between 10 and 20 days for me to do an album. So it got to the point, once I started to really kick this into high gear, it got to the point where it just wasn't sustainable to play as we were going along. The other thing was that it's more helpful to have already played the game before I start composing for it, so I know kind of what I'm doing. At first, it was the other way around. At first, I was just taking without, I was trying not to get a spoiler for it. So I was trying to create something that was more general, just so I had something that was in the background. Now it's more about, I want something that definitely hits all the beats of the game and also in the right places. So, for example, I'm working on an album right now that's going to be the last scenario in a campaign, and I started it a couple of days ago, but I hadn't played that scenario in 2 years. So I have it on the table right here, right now, right to my left. And I sat down and I played it yesterday afternoon for like an hour and a half, just so I could get a handle on, where the flow of things are in the game, so that I'm building the track list in the right order. Because that's the other thing, is I've actually started composing in order as well. So the first track I work on is track 1, the second track I work on is track 2. And it didn't used to be that way. It used to just be like, okay, I'm going to do something with drums now, and now I'm going to do something with techno, and now I'm going to do something that's droney. And but now I've got it in my head that I want to do it in track order, because it allows me to see and kind of check off, this list of, okay, I've hit this beat, I've hit this beat. I know after this thing happens, so I want to make sure I'm making a song that represents that thing that's happening. So yeah, playing the game ahead of time definitely helps. And then I keep the cards from the game also near me. I keep them close by so I can pick them up and look at them and reference them, and look at the art or something like that if I need a very specific inspiration.
Sounds to be awfully hard, kind of like, I guess you think, when someone's playing the game, that the music would be coming right up the time and there's some big reveal.
Yeah. That's pacing I've gotten it down pretty good. If someone, everyone's play style is different. I'm a very slow player, for example. But I think I've managed to kind of get it down to roughly how long it takes for like a seasoned player, to kind of hit the beats roughly where the music is.
So what was the moment when you realized that, this is something I should share with other people?
It was pretty early on. It was, I was using my wife as a sounding board for a lot of this, so I would make a thing, we would play the game, the music would be on the background, and I'd say at the end of it all, what did you think? And she would, very often, what she would say is, I didn't even notice it, which was actually the right answer. Because if it wasn't very good, I think she would have been like hemming and hawing, and she'd be like, oh, it was fine, or something like that. But she was just like, oh, I didn't even notice, like nothing was standing out, nothing was weird. Sometimes I would mix it in with other people's music, and, she wouldn't pick out my music and go, that's your track because it's different than the other stuff we heard. Like I was doing a lot of play testing with her. And once I realized kind of that it's tolerable for my wife to listen to, I was like, well, let me see what the other people in the community think. So I would put together these YouTube videos that were like an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And, I would link the pieces of music with like sound effects and things like that. And I would upload them and just send a link out to like the Facebook groups for the game and say, here's a video of some music I made for the game, let me know if you guys like it and I'll make more. And people seemed to like it.
So you got positive reactions from it and everything.
Oh yeah. Nothing but. I'm very happy about that.
That's good.
Online, that's not a common thing, to get positive feedback.
Share it while you can. There was one that it seemed like it was based on a particular card, the Hand of the Brotherhood.
Hand of the Brotherhood is a lot of the titles of the tracks I use. Like I'm trying really hard not to, I don't know. Like I said, step on the IP of Fantasy Flight Games. The people that make Arkham Horror, the card game. But at the same time, I also want the titles of the songs to reflect the places in the game that things are happening. So a lot of the titles of the tracks are based on the information that's on a card, and Hand of the Brotherhood was the title of a card on the game, like an information card.
And we'll play that one for the audience.
Okay.
And so what was it about that card that that inspired you?
So every game, every scenario starts off with what's called an act deck and an agenda deck, and they sit side by side at the end of the table. One is, and the way that they sit, they kind of look like an open book with pages. And so what your job is you're supposed to be working your way through these decks. And the agenda deck is the game's way of trying to slow you down. And there's like a countdown on it. And the act deck is an objective that you have to achieve to try and beat the game. And the games are played in rounds, so it's like, you have 6 rounds before the agenda deck moves on to the next thing, and then when the agenda deck moves on to the next card in that deck, bad things happen. So you want to advance the act deck before the agenda deck advances, so that you get a perk before you get a bad thing happening. And so the Hand of the Brotherhood would be one of these cards that would give you information about something that's happening in the story of the game, because the game is very story based. It's very you start off, you read a little passage of text in a book, and then you read the act deck, the first card, and then you read the agenda deck, and then you're off and running, and everything is played out on these location cards on the table. And you have to run around these different locations and achieve different things. And then, like I said, you're supposed to, once you've achieved a thing, you advance the act. If you don't achieve that thing before in the number of rounds required before the agenda flips, then there will be a penalty. So a lot of these cards have information. They have story information, or they will have. There's also something called the Mythos deck, which is at the beginning of every round, you have to draw a card off of the Mythos deck. And the Mythos deck is just more bad stuff that's happening to you. So it'll be like a fancy way of like losing an action, or you'll have to take some sort of test on a stat that you have. You might have like a strength stat or an agility stat or something like that, and you'll have to take some sort of test. And if you fail that test, then kind of like a video game, like you'll get damage, or you'll get what they call horror. And so a lot of the song titles are based on those cards as well. So there'll be things like locked doors, which you draw the card and it says, put it on the location that you're at, and you can't do anything at that location until you pass a test and you break down the door. So there's lots of that stuff that's like really flavorful. And so I try to grab that stuff and incorporate it into the songs, because it's something that someone's going to come across while they're playing the game. They're always going to come across this thing, and they're always going to come across this thing. And so it's just all about kind of pacing out the experience for the player. And they won't even know, because they're not going to be looking at the song titles while they're playing the game. They're just pushing a button on their phone, and then they're getting to work on the game. And so they have no idea that the stuff that went into, like, I've decided to call this part of the album this thing because this thing is about to happen. It's all, subliminal to them.
You sound like you're quite proud of that. It's almost like, you're like a little.
Well, I sit in front of this very computer. I can't tell you how many hours a week, and I don't talk to anybody about this except for my wife, and she's tired of hearing about it. So yeah, it's exciting to get to talk to somebody who maybe has an appreciation for the game, and I certainly do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be putting all this time and energy into it. But yeah, I love it.
So what is your wife's take on this? Has she become like a fan of Lovecraft as well, and like, I guess, like more appreciative of fantasy and horror?
Yeah, actually, we whenever we're sitting down to watch something like True Detective on TV, maybe, like she'll clock it. She'll go, "Oh, this is kind of like, this is a little Lovecraftian." And I'm like, "Yes, it is." Yes, it is. So yeah, there've been a lot of like instances like that. It's been great.
So I guess Have you been composing all your life? Is this something you just started recently, or?
I've been dabbling with music as long as I can remember, really. Um, but I never really took it super seriously, and I never really considered myself any good. And then it was just circumstantially, then, again, because the pandemic, we had nothing to do. So I took my keyboard down off the shelf, I hooked it up and started Google music program that comes with my computer. And I was surprised at how, and all the other things, I also never really tackled something like this. It was always about, I'm going to write a song. And this isn't songwriting. This is composing is a whole different thing. It accesses a whole different kind of set of muscles and tools and all that. And I had no idea if I had any aptitude for it or anything, but regardless of whether or not I thought it was any good, I know that I enjoyed it. And that was like a big thing for me. I got such a kick out of making a thing, and I definitely wanted to share it because I thought, wow, I was just surprised I was able to make a thing, you know? So once I started making music for this type of thing, it snowballed. I started to, when I would watch a movie or something, I would be listening to it more than I would be watching it, because I'd be like, how do they make these sounds, or how do they layer these instruments, or how does this orchestra transition from one part to another part? It's definitely affected the way that I watch television and movies now, because I'm now soaking it all in with a composer's ear instead of just enjoying the experience as a viewer. And I've been very happy that I've been able to parlay this into other things as well. I've scored a podcast. Last year I scored a podcast. I've done a short film earlier this year. So I've been able to turn this into I've been able to kind of make a little bit of a career out of it, a small career out of it.
That's that's good. I have something down. It was like something is here, a tribute at the Mountains of Badness. I think you were a runner-up in that was a contest.
Yes, it was for, I think it's the Audio Drama Hub on Facebook. Every year they do a competition for just to make some sort of short form piece of audio that's supposed to evoke a story. And I was working on a piece that uh, was based in Egypt. And I was like, oh, this kind of has a mummy kind of vibe to it. And so I was able to, oh no, I'm talking about a totally different thing. I'm sorry, I'm talking about a totally different thing. I've done a bunch of these different things. This one was, it was based on I was working on the Edge of the Earth campaign with the sequel to At the Mountains of Madness. And so I wanted to, when I saw that this contest came up, I wanted to kind of chunk off a piece of something that I was working on for that, and created a little something that tried to convey what it was like to be stranded in the middle of the wastelands of Antarctica with no supplies and no help coming, and then realizing you're also not alone. And so that's what Something Is Coming was based on. And I was fortunate enough to get a runner up from it.
Yes. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
As composed, I mean, compared to composing like a video game or a movie, it's like I guess what would be so different doing like an Arkham horror game as opposed a movie or a video game?
Good question. The difference is sometimes not at all, because I actually occasionally, I haven't done it in a while actually, but I will occasionally just pull up a video on my computer and write the music to whatever's going on. So I'll take a clip from an X-Files episode or an Indiana Jones scene or something like that, or an old horror movie or an old Batman cartoon or something, and I'll compose to a little scene from that, because it just helps to get that feel of making it feel like it's a movie soundtrack that, that someone's listening to. So I do actually do that sometimes when I'm composing the music. But that is where it is different from composing a movie, is that when I'm not doing it that way, I don't have like timing beats that I need to make sure that I get within 30 seconds. I need to get from here to here because I know there's something that's happening on screen that I need to make sure I'm hitting, the mark musically because somebody is about to pull a trigger or, whatever, jump off a thing. Like, I don't have to worry about that. So I can make sure everything fits within the beats of the tempo of the song. So I can do everything in bop, 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 bop. And I don't have to worry about going bop, 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 bop. Like, it's all kind of, it's more free form for me.
Okay, I've seen those videos where you had like these movies, and I didn't know exactly what was going on, so that explains it. Okay.
Yep.
It all comes together now.
I saw that you guys on a recent episode you were talking to someone about Doctor Who, and that's been a big one that I use is clips from classic Doctor Who to score to, and when I'm doing those clips, I try to actually use the types of instruments that the composer from the show back in the 70s would use so that it has that feel, that like Dudley Simpson 1978 kind of feel to it. And I just love kind of putting myself in that place where I'm using, I'm setting up like a little orchestra for myself that I'm only going to use instruments in this orchestra and see what I can make happen with it.
So you try to like channel the spirit of the times,
Totally, for sure. Yeah.
So you're not like, you don't like, oh, I can do this better. I can make more modern or anything like that.
I don't think I can do anything better than anybody else who's ever made a dime selling their music. No.
So who are your influences, making your music?
For sure, Dudley Simpson from 70s era Doctor Who. I didn't realize that he was one until I started doing this stuff. And then I'm like, oh, I love that he would do these really weird, he would do a vibraphone with a trombone and just a bass drum, and he'd be able to make something out of that, Jerry Goldsmith, who did the Star Trek, the motion picture soundtrack. John Williams. I mean, come on, John Williams. I mean, he was kind of the king of, yeah. Like, I mean, I grew up before I had any interest in like bands or, before I found my own music. Like, I would just listen to soundtracks when I was a kid and close my eyes, back before there were VCRs and things like that and streaming services. Like you'd go to the movies, then you'd buy the soundtrack and then you'd play the movie in your head when you'd put the soundtrack on. And so, yeah, for sure, John Williams was a huge, huge one for me.
Yeah, I remember buying the old album for Star Wars and listening to it and everything. And the beginning of Cantina were always my favorites.
Yeah, totally.
And so there you have one called Chasing Time. Where does that fit in with all your?
Geez, I don't even know. I sent you guys some samples of stuff, but like I picked and choosed from a huge. I don't know if you know this, but I've put out in less than 2 years, I've put out something like 30 albums of soundtracks.
On your Spotify page, there's a lot of tracks on there because I had that just kind of running.
Yeah, it's a little nuts. Let me actually see if I can find that for you here. Chasing Time. Chasing Time is from, let's see.
I guess you can say you're not lazy.
No, no, it's very regimented. Like I schedule very specific days of the week and times of the day that I'm working on music. Um, the hard part is trying to fit it around my day job, you know.
So how
Uh,
does it work? Is it strictly keyboard or
yeah, everything is done on a keyboard. I have a Mac computer, and when I bought it, you could pay a little bit extra, and you could get a program called Logic included with it when it shipped. And Logic is just a stock music program that comes with a synthesizer loaded into it with like a bazillion sounds. And when I first started doing this stuff, I only used what came in that program. And then as I've been doing this, I've been purchasing and adding different libraries of sounds. So I've been adding orchestras, like actual, like sampled instruments of orchestras that were recorded in Abbey Road studios, for example. I have a drum kit that was designed by the drummer for Nine Inch Nails that I use to make some of my percussion sounds. Hans Zimmer, I have instruments that were designed by Hans Zimmer to be used. So that stuff it costs a little bit of money for those. They're not things that the amateur can just run out and purchase. You need to save your pennies to get a lot of this stuff, and I've been acquiring them over the last couple of years with the intention of doing exactly kind of where I'm at right now, where I'm occasionally scoring a short film or a podcast series or something like that, where I can get a little bit of money back from it. And it also allows me to write it off on my taxes as well, which is helpful.
there you go.
Yeah.
Arkham Horror, the game itself is okay with you doing all this music, isn't it?
It is. It is. I wasn't sure how they were going to start feeling about it, especially when I adopted their name as the band name, as the artist name. The lead designer on the most recent campaign actually reached out to me on Facebook when I started releasing the soundtracks for the campaign that he designed, and he asked if I could send him the files, the MP3 files, to the tracks because he liked them well enough, and he's like, "Is there a place where I can go to buy these?" And I said to him, "No, you're not buying anything. You're not spending a penny to get my music. Like there's no way that's going to happen." So I ended up sending him everything I had at that point, because I certainly, he's one of the what he and his team have done have brought me so much joy on the table, but also have given me this whole kind of second career as a creator. So yeah, so they get music for free for life.
Life.
I'd record Happy Birthday if they wanted. I don't care. I'll do anything.
So I guess so why did you pick that name, Arkham Horrors? Was it like, to say you're a big fan of the game, or you just like that name?
It was all about name recognition. I wanted to make sure that if someone, for example, on iTunes or Amazon Music or Spotify or whatever, like if they were like, I want music to play in the background while I'm playing Arkham Horror the card game. So if they type in Arkham Horror the card game, I want my artist name to show up in the search results ahead of anybody else's, because there's lots of playlists out there that say like Arkham Horror the card game music, but it's just a mishmash of stuff. Sometimes it's just really weird sounding like experimental music, or sometimes it's just classical music or stuff from television soundtracks or movie soundtracks and things like that. And so I wanted something that was going to cut through a lot of that. So that's why I did that. I wanted to just make sure it was as easily identifiable to people who were looking for music for this game as possible.
So you're okay with people just being background music? It's
Sure. I don't like I said, I don't care if if they like one track out of a 75-minute album and they throw that on a playlist with 300 other tracks from other artists, I'm okay with that. Sure. Like this is all just, it's totally a labor of love. Absolutely. It's 100%. It's for the community.
It sounds like this game has like really changed your life. I mean, is there?
It has.
Yeah.
It completely has. I owe a lot to Lovecraft for sure. We actually took a trip to outside of Providence for a little mini vacation last summer, and I made sure that we stopped off at the cemetery uh, so we could, give a proper thank you to to his to his gravestone.
And so, what do you? I guess what do you want people to get out of Lovecraft? Through your music.
Uh, well, I want to be able to, by the time they stop making this game, I want to be able to have completed this project. I want to be able to say I did make a soundtrack album for every single one of their scenarios. Beyond that, I would love for my music to be known as like the go-to selection for someone who's looking for Lovecraft inspired music. I want to be kind of known as like the guy. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It might be a pipe dream, and that's okay. But right now, that's what I'm looking for. Is I hope that it's something that people enjoy and keep enjoying, and long after I'm gone, they're still pulling it up on whatever version of Spotify exists in 30 years.
Do you ever hope someday, someone go to you and say like, "Hey, I'm working on this Lovecraft movie. Can you score it for me?"
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm so ready to do that. I keep trying to keep my eyes open for people looking for composers for that kind of thing, and I have an account on Fiverr where people can solicit me to hire me to do stuff like that. I did just start a Patreon page where people can reach out to me and they can get my music for download and stuff like that. But if they reach out to me through the Patreon page, I'm more than happy to commission something for them as well.
How can they reach you through that?
It is patreon.com/the Arkham Horrors. And then, of course, they can find my music anywhere that's streaming under that moniker as well.
So do you have like a particular story of Lovecraft you would love to score sometime or as a movie?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do a version of At the Mountains of Madness. Like I said, that icy cold, that feeling of just being lost or finding yourself in a situation where you think you're alone and you turn around and you see out of the corner of your eye something that you should not have seen. Like that idea is really, really flavorful. I would love to do something like that.
I guess it decides to do the movie again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of them. I think I would like to do the Witch House one. That would be really good. It's got a very Poe feel to it, that story. It's a very small story. I really like that one a lot. Charles Dexter Ward would be a good one to do.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah, I like that one a lot for sure. What do you guys have you listened to the Lovecraft Investigations podcast?
Yes.
What did you think of it?
I enjoyed it.
I think it went on a bit.
Yeah.
I like the first story, the arc of it, the first one. If you're calling them like by chapter 1 or something like that, the first
right season 1.
Yeah, if you would, by seasons. And then I say that if we're going by that, then I really enjoyed season 1, but then like less so the more that they kind of kept repeating the gimmick each time.
Yeah. I think I understand that. I can appreciate that. I watch a lot of foreign television and British television and stuff like that. And so I actually knew some of the performers in that podcast from other things. And so that was like a big kind of thing for me. I was like, oh, I know that person. I know that person. I agree with you. I feel like some of it got a little too weird and a little too kind of off the Lovecraft mark in places, but the part of that reason is that it's part of a bigger universe. It's called the Pleasant Green universe.
Mhm.
And so there are these other audio stories that are out there that are not connected to the Lovecraft investigations, but have characters that appear in the Lovecraft investigations that are in these other things as well, or things that are referenced.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's some of why things kind of go a little left of center in those later seasons.
Reference that, I guess, as far as I'm trying to think of that name had ever come up during the
Yeah.
I may have missed it. I mean, it's on me and so I overlooked it, but I'm trying to think if they ever said, and you should also check out, you know.
They don't because I don't think they're publicly available everywhere across the world.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
I think in the UK that you can easily access them. But outside of the UK, you kind of have to go to like the Internet Archive, or you have to go to some of these other kind of sneaky places, BitTorrents and things like that, to find all of them because they're scattered all over the place.
Huh. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
There was like a world within those worlds.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's like this is one part of a much bigger kind of story, which is very Lovecraft, really. You
Yeah.
know,
That fit.
what's your go-to when you outside of Lovecraft's own work? Like, where do you see um like what scratches that itch for you guys outside of actual HP Lovecraft properties?
In terms of like cosmic horror type of stuff.
Sure.
Stuff. I've been into
Yeah.
Thomas Ligotti a lot lately. He does a lot more like
Okay.
short stories, which I guess is very Lovecraft because a lot of Lovecraft stories aren't real long either.
Yeah.
Short story collections that I really enjoy, but it's kind of like a more modern take on that same type of, like cosmic horror, fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Laird Barron. He's
Oh,
a
dude,
real
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
He's got some really creepy stories that go in wild directions, and a lot of them are they have a very noir feel to them. It's kind of a hard-boiled detective type thing, but with the background of the cosmic horror and
Yeah.
it's one I've really enjoyed. And we had him on here way back. It's been a while, but yeah.
And I'm always digging into like the more obscure stuff. I'm like trying to find like the people who like have disappeared through history, like some of the old pulp writers and
hmm
stuff like that. And so I'm always digging up somebody and trying like collect all their stories, and especially if there's some connection to Kentucky. So
Okay.
I think
Sure.
finding the a lot of the writers that way, that because I basically want to make a Kentucky weird. So
Hopkins.
Nice.
yeah.
I like it. I like it. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's become the whole notion of cosmic horror it's taken on this whole other life. Like there's tons of podcasts out there, like dramatized podcasts. There's Archive 81 is a really good one, which they developed into a television series for Netflix. It didn't do so well in television form. There's a French television series called Black Spot, which is amazingly
I've heard of that. It's good.
Yeah.
I've watched it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. That was on Netflix for years. They just finally took it off a few months ago. But I've recommended that to a ton of people because it does check that box in so many ways. Like there's an investigator who's working on a case. Unbeknownst to them, there's something kind of bigger happening, and you meet all these characters as she's going along trying to figure out this thing. And yeah, it's really good. There's so much of that out there now, and we live in maybe the most I don't know, fruitful time for Lovecraft based fiction. It's a great time to be a fan of this stuff.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you've also done some other non-Lovecraft stuff. There was like a few in the Cursed comic book that you had done for a comic book movie.
That was just the Few in the Cursed franchise. I think it was a community engagement thing. So what they did is they dropped a couple of video clips without, just like silent videos. One was animated and one was like a movie that they put together, like a 3-minute movie. And they had a contest to score one or both of those films, and then they would collect them. You could put them up on your YouTube page and tag them, and then they would, they'd pick a winner. And so when I was just starting out doing this stuff, I did a couple of those and submitted them. I didn't win anything. I didn't even get an honorable mention for those, but they were fun to do. And that was a lot of what kind of got me inspired to also grab like clips of movies and television shows and scored a picture, because that was, I think, my first time doing that, like having a video that I actually was putting music to. And it was fun.
There's also a view from the balcony, which is supposed to be inspired by the composer Dudley Simpson.
Yes. Speaking of Doctor Who, yeah, the original view from the balcony video that I had put up on my YouTube channel actually had the Doctor Who footage from the episode Image of the Fendal. It was the first 4 minutes or so of Image of the Fendal, and I was planning on uploading it for the 60th anniversary, and I uploaded it on November 23rd of last year, and it got, as soon as the upload finished processing, I got a copyright warning on it saying that I was using other people's copyrighted images, and so I had to take it down immediately, so I couldn't unveil it for the 30th. And by the time the holidays were coming up, so by the time I had a chance to kind of rework it, I had to just replace it with just weird video footage that I use. But like, you don't get the sense of like how I was scoring it to picture. But view from the balcony is if you line up the opening scene right after the opening credits to episode 1 of Image of the Fendal, and you start the song, it'll play through perfectly until the Doctor shows up, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Then there's Grizzly from On Thin Ice.
Grizzly is, I think I might have scored that to an X-Files episode, actually. Let me check that out here and see. That has to do with an Arkham Horror scenario that takes place in Fairbanks, Alaska. The scenario has to do with you are chasing down an artifact, and you're also trying to get to the artifact before somebody else in this shadow organization is also trying to get to it. So it's like this big race against time. And I think Grizzly was inspired by that.
Not inspired by the Grizzly movie or anything like that.
No, it's something entirely different.
And then there was
Although that would be a good one to do.
Yeah, that'd probably be a fun one.
Yeah.
Cocaine.
Yeah. Cocaine Bear, you want to do that
Cocaine
one?
Bear.
Okay, yeah, that's a whole other thing.
And that actually is, what is it? It's a Kentucky basis on that, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like,
That movie's hardly based on anything true, actually.
Right.
Right, there's a kernel of a true story in there. Yeah.
Yeah, the bear had cocaine in its systems, but the only thing I can say
Right.
about it.
Yes.
Yeah, there was also the Hate No More podcast teaser that you had done.
Yep. Hate No More was that was one of those jobs that I was commissioned for on the Fiverr website. This guy was just looking for he'd completed the first episode of this podcast about he was actually writing a book for a former skinhead. And so he did a bunch of Zoom interviews with this guy, and with the intention of taking quotes from these Zoom interviews and turning them into a book. And then as he was compiling all of it, he's like, this is too much work to write all this down, so I think I'm just going to do it as a podcast. And so he put together the first episode, and he commissioned me to just do the music for the first episode. And I said, if you like it and this inspires you, and you're interested in working with me some more, let me know, and we'll do a deal to do the rest of the season together. And I didn't hear from him again for like 3 months, and then he reached out to me again. And he's like, I've got 6 more episodes ready to go. So I guess the music actually kind of fired him up, and he's like, now that I can hear it with the music, like now I want to get back in, and I want to chop it up and put it together more, because I know where the musical beats are going to be. And so yeah, that was a really cool experience. And it came out really good. It's a very interesting story about like kind of going through the prison system and all of that. And I highly recommend it. It's a stranger than fiction kind of story.
And then there was Seeing Red Part 1 and Save the Civilizations from the album In the Dead Heat.
Oh boy, I don't know. I don't know. Where are you getting these things from? Are you getting these from my YouTube channel?
I'm from YouTube channel. You just make this stuff
Yeah.
something, you know.
Yeah.
Again, I deal in so much volume. I'm pushing these things out so fast.
Yeah.
I could not tell you. I have no idea. That's not a great advertisement for my music, is it?
It's like I make so much I can't remember it all.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the way it is. It is.
Too prolific.
Yeah. I
I
guess
don't know about that.
if you were a 60s musician, you could blame drugs or something. It's like I can't remember that song and where it came from.
It's yeah, it's just sheer volume at this stage. Because I truly am about every 10 days I'm popping out between an hour and an hour and a half's worth of content. So it's just go, go, go. And then, as soon as I put one out, I'm on to the next one. And that one goes out, I'm on to the next one. So I don't have time to look back anymore and sit and go, wow, I'm really happy with this thing or that thing.
So you're on to the next project then.
I am. The problem is they keep releasing stuff. I can't catch up. It's a great problem, but
Yeah.
man, I really wish they'd have a delay in their design or shipping or something. They just announced the 2025 campaign. They made an announcement at Gen Con, which is the big gaming convention, earlier this month, and Cthulhu is finally showing up in the Arkham Horror the card game property. So that's an exciting one.
So is this like a game that has like an intended end to it, or are they just going to keep making as long as they figure they can make games from it?
It seems to be Fantasy Flight Games has a lot of different smaller entities and all that. This seems to be one of their biggest IPs. They have a Game of Thrones IP, they have a Star Wars IP, and they have the Arkham Files, which is Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror the board game, and I think maybe Mansions of Madness is theirs as well. And they all kind of like they'll use art from one game and put it in the other and stuff like that. And when I first started playing the game, when you would pull up the Arkham Files on their website, Arkham Horror the card game was like third or fourth listed under the Arkham Files products. It is now number one under the search on their own website. So I don't think they're quite done with it yet. I think they are. I think the game is only growing in popularity, and it seems to be a thriving property, which I'm very happy about as a player. As a composer, I'm exhausted. Yeah, so I'm finishing up right now. I'm wrapping up the last soundtrack from the campaign called The Forgotten Age. I still have 3 full campaigns of previously released games that I need to do, plus about 10 standalone scenarios I need to do soundtracks for. And so I'll be busy doing this probably for 3 or 4 more years.
So I guess as long as you
Yeah.
enjoy it, just go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I do. I love it.
Any questions you want to ask him?
I don't know. I just feel like I missed out from my days of playing games. Now you have soundtracks and there's all the digital.
Yeah,
And,
multimedia aspect to it.
right. And we were just pencil, paper, and dice. And that was,
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
Magic.
yeah.
and actually they did Fantasy Flight Games actually just put out an Arkham Horror the role-playing game. I think they released it last month, so they're back to pencil and paper and dice.
Wow.
So everything old is new again.
Well, there's what is it, Eldritch Horror? Was that the one that we were playing? It's more of it's a board game, but it has a lot of the elements that you were talking about with the Arkham Horror, as far as that.
Yep.
You're playing more as like you're not playing against the other players in the game.
It's
You're all working
co-op,
together, co-op.
Right.
Various things in the game. You draw a card, and it's something bad happens to a specific person, or they land on a specific space, and something
Yep.
bad happens to them, and or a penalty that they have to drag around with them the rest of the game, that kind of thing.
Yep. The card game is a modified version of both Eldritch Horror, the board game, and Arkham Horror, the board game. And they use, like I said, they use the same characters. So like the investigators that you can choose to play in either of those games, also you have the option to play those same investigators in this game as well. It's very much an interconnected property for them, which is good for them because they can keep kind of grabbing from one thing to the other and back and forth indefinitely.
Have you ever played the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game?
No, I haven't.
I wonder how it compared to that, because it's like in that game, it's like the more you play, the more insane you become.
Right, and that is kind of the same basis with all of these Arkham Files games. It's kind of the same thing as you go through a scenario, depending on the choices you make while you're playing the game and how well you do as far as like beating the agenda deck. You accrue horror and damage in the form of trauma, physical trauma or mental trauma. So you're either beaten down physically or you're emotionally beaten down to the point where you can be driven insane before you get a chance to complete the entire 8 scenario cycle. So it's a similar kind of thing to that. There's actually the Great Old Ones Gaming podcast, which is an Arkham based podcast. They are starting a Call of Cthulhu play along thing on their podcast, and they've asked me to provide the music for that. So I think I will be finding out more about that game because I'll be providing the music for their play alongs.
So when you're doing all this composing, when do you have time to play?
It's gotten less. I'm not gonna lie. I am definitely spending more hours a month playing on my keyboard than I am playing on the table. We're at a point now where we're caught up, which is great. Like we've played everything that they've released so far. So I'm just waiting for new stuff to come up, but occasionally we'll bring something back to the table. Now it does seem like the only time I actually get it to the table is when I'm playing it to refresh my memory because I'm about to write the music for it. But that's a nice perk though, because now it gives me an opportunity to go back to something that I haven't played in quite a while and get it back on the table and, get excited about it again.
So when you go back and play, are you paying more attention to the game, or are you paying more attention to the music and like going like, why did I play that note there?
I don't think about that at all. No, when I go back to play the game, I don't listen. Usually I'm playing a scenario that I haven't written the soundtrack for at this point. It's so that I can figure out what I want to write for that particular scenario. I don't think I have actually played a scenario that I've already done the music for since the very, very beginning of all of this. That would be interesting though. Yeah, to kind of critique it and go, boy, why did I do that?
Yeah, should go back, I guess, sometime.
I don't want to do that though. I don't want to drive myself crazy.
I have one more question. This artwork behind you, are those CD cover? What is that on the wall?
This is my wife and I went on a trip to Boston a few years ago, and we stopped in Walden, Massachusetts, which is where Henry David Thoreau wrote on Walden Pond. And there was a sculpture park right down the road and across the street from the famous Walden Pond. And they had a little gallery inside the main building of this sculpture park. And there was this giant wall-to-wall, probably 8 foot high by 30 feet wide collage that this artist made of all these little squares that they painted all these different ways. And I took a picture of it and I was like, I want to do something like that just as a fun little thing. So I've got a much smaller version of it here on my wall. It's only maybe 4 foot by 6 foot.
I don't know. There's one of them that reminds me of a Pearl Jam CD cover.
It's from 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I thought that might have been what it was, but yeah.
No, it's just it's just abstract art that I spent I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks tying up our dining room table. Just I would put a splotch of paint on one square, and then I'd grab another brush and put another splotch of paint on another square, and then go around and I'm pretty happy with it. I only see it because, again, it's one of those things that I don't see because it's behind me. So this is great. You guys are helping me out here. I'm getting to appreciate
I like it.
appreciate it.
Cool. That's very neat.
Thank you.
Very eye-catching.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming.
Sure.
Enjoyed it. And
Thank you guys for having me.
Great. Thank you again. Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Sure.
All longer right. We must cease all discussion until they line again next month. 30 plus minutes of H.P. Lovecraft is sponsored by the Eater of Dreams. He particularly likes flying dreams. This podcast was created in association with LovecraftPod.com and Logan Speculative Fiction Group with the help of Logan County Public Library and the Great Old Ones. Special thanks to Katie Tysons for preventing any non-Arkham horrors from happening here. And thanks to Josh, even though we aren't as good as King of the Hill. Until we meet again, may you avoid Princess Cthulhu and your path to Carcosa.
King of the Hill.